Hello, welcome to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. In this upload, we are going to be reading 2 Kings 23. Now, this may take around 7 or 8 minutes. Part of when I say I read these chapters multiple times. I just recorded this, and and the sound went out halfway through. So, in addition to reading it to take notes multiple times, then I also read it, recorded it, went back to watch it, and now I'm having to record again because I don't know how to make the sound. I don't know how to do it. So, praise the Lord. 2 Kings chapter 23. And the king sent, and they gathered unto him all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem. And the king went up into the house of the Lord, and all the men of Judah and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem with him, and the priests and the prophets and all the people, both small and great. And he read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant, which was found in the house of the Lord. And the king stood by a pillar and made a covenant before the Lord to walk after the Lord, and to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes with all their heart and all their soul, to perform the words of this covenant that were written in this book. And all the people stood to the covenant. And the king commanded Hilkiah, the high priest, and the priests of the second order, and the keepers of the door, to bring forth out of the temple of the Lord all the vessels that were made for Baal, and for the grove, and for all the hosts of heaven. And he burned them without Jerusalem in the fields of Kidron, and carried the ashes of them unto Bethel. And he put down the idolatrous priests, whom the kings of Judah had ordained to burn incense in the high places in the cities of Judah, and in the places round about Jerusalem, them also that burned incense unto Baal, to the sun, and to the moon, and to the planets, and to all the host of heaven. And he brought out the grove from the house of the Lord without Jerusalem unto the brook Kidron, and burned it at the brook Kidron, and stamped it small to powder, and cast the powder thereof upon the graves of the children of the people. And he brake down the houses of the Sodomites that were by the house of the Lord, where the women wove hangings for the grove. And he brought all the priests out of the cities of Judah, and defiled the high places where the priests had burned incense from Geba to Beersheba, and brake down the high places of the gates that were in the entering in of the gate of Joshua, the governor of the city, which were on a man's left hand at the gate of the city. Nevertheless, the priests of the high places came not up to the altar of the Lord in Jerusalem, but they did eat of the unleavened bread among their brethren. And he defiled Topheth, which is in the valley of the children of Hinnom, that no man might make his son or daughter to pass through the fire to Molech. And he took away the horses that the kings of Judah had given to the sun at the entering in of the house of the Lord by the chamber of Nathan-melech, the chamberlain, which was in the suburbs, and burned the chariots of the sun with fire, and the altars that were on the top of the upper chamber of Ahaz, which the kings of Judah had made, and the altars which Manasseh had made in the two courts of the house of the Lord, did the king beat down, and break them down from thence, and cast the dust of them into the brook Kidron. And the high places that were before Jerusalem, which were on the right hand of the mount of corruption, which Solomon the king of Israel had builded for Ashtoreth, the abomination of the Zidonians, and for Shamash, the abomination of the Moabites, and for Milcom, the abomination of the children of Ammon, did the king defile. And he brake in pieces the images, and cut down the groves, and filled their places with the bones of men. Moreover, the altar that was at Bethel, and the high place with Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin, had made both that the altar and the high place he brake down, and burned the high place, and stamped it small to powder, and burned the grove. And as Josiah turned himself, he spied the sepulchres that were there in the mount, and sent, and took the bones out of the sepulchres, and burned them upon the altar, and polluted it, according to the word of the Lord, which the man of God proclaimed, who proclaimed these words. Then he said, What title is that I see? And the men of the city told him, It is the sepulchre of the man of God, which came from Judah, and proclaimed these things that thou hast done against the altar of Bethel. And he said, Let him alone, let no man move his bones. So they let his bones alone with the bones of the prophet that came out of Samaria. And all the houses also of the high places that were in the cities of Samaria, which the kings of Israel had made to provoke the Lord to anger, Josiah took away, and did to them according to all the acts that he had done in Bethel. And he slew all the priests of the high places that were there upon the altars, and burned men's bones upon them, and returned to Jerusalem. And the king commanded all the people, saying, Keep the Passover unto the Lord your God, as it is written in the book of this covenant. Surely there was not holden such a Passover from the days of the judges that judged Israel, nor in all the days of the kings of Israel, nor of the kings of Judah. But in the 18th year of King Josiah, wherein this Passover was holden to the Lord in Jerusalem, moreover, the workers with familiar spirits, and the wizards, and the images, and the idols, and all the abominations that were spied in the land of Judah and in Jerusalem, did Josiah put away, that he might perform the words of the law which were written in the book that Hilkiah the priest found in the house of the Lord. And like unto him was there no king before him that turned to the Lord with all his heart, and with all his soul, and with all his might, according to all the law of Moses. Neither after him arose there any like him. Ugh. Verse 26, notwithstanding, the Lord turned not from the fierceness of his great wrath, wherewith his anger was kindled against Judah, because of all the provocations that Manasseh had provoked him withal. And the Lord said, I will remove Judah also out of my sight, as I have removed Israel, and will cast off this city Jerusalem which I have chosen, and the house of which I said, my name shall be there. Now, the rest of the acts of Josiah, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? In his days, Veronica, king of Egypt, went up against the king of Assyria to the river Euphrates, and King Josiah went against him, and he slew him at Megiddo when he had seen him. And his servants carried him in a chariot dead from Megiddo, and brought him to Jerusalem, and buried him in his own sepulchre. And the people of the land took Jehoahaz the son of Josiah, and anointed him, and made him king in his father's stead. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. And Veronica put him in bands in Riblah, in the land of Hamath, that he might not reign in Jerusalem, and put the land to a tribute of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. And Veronica made Eliakim, the son of Josiah, king in the room of Josiah his father, and turned his name to Jehoiakim, and took Jehoahaz away, and he came to Egypt and died there. And Jehoiakim gave the silver and the gold to Pharaoh, but he taxed the land to give the money according to the commandment of Pharaoh. He exacted the silver and the gold of the people of the land, of every one according to his taxation, to give it to Veronica. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Zebudah, the daughter of Pedaiah of Rumah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. The current chapter, 2 Kings 22. Josiah, king of Judah, becomes king when he is 8 years old. He's godly and makes arrangements to repair the temple through Hilkiah the priest. Hilkiah finds a book and gives it to Shaphan, King Josiah's employee. Shaphan reads the book to Josiah, who mourns in distress. King Josiah asks Hilkiah and 4 other men to get an interpretation from a religious official. Huldah, the prophetess, confirms the tragic future of Judah. She tells Josiah's men that he will die before the wrath of God hits Judah. The men return to the kingdom and tell Josiah. The current chapter, 2 Kings 23. King Josiah gathers the kingdom elders and reads the book that was given to him by the high priest. The kingdom agrees to keep the commands of God. King Josiah destroys the altars, temples, and shrines that were created for other gods. He also removed the people participating in alternative rituals prohibited by God. King Josiah dies in war. King Josiah's son, Jehoahaz, becomes king and is evil. Within 3 months, Jehoahaz is captured by the Egyptian king, and Judah is paying heavy taxes. Summarizing 2 Kings 23, we learn in the previous chapter, Josiah arranges to have repairs made to the church. The book of the covenant is found during those repairs. The book is read to Josiah, and it contains a devastating future for the nation of Judah. Judah sends his men to get a second opinion from a prophetess who confirms it and also says, Josiah, you're going to die before any of it gets to you, so don't worry. Still, this is a tragic fate. And now Josiah is gathering the kingdom people to tell them what the contents of this book. After he read it to them, he makes a covenant to God in front of everyone that he's going to keep the commandments in this book. And at the end of verse 3, all of the kingdom people joined into the covenant, agreeing that they're going to keep these commands. After this, King Josiah goes on a rampage, kind of just destroying these different items, removing people that were priests practicing these alternative belief systems, and just destroying these alternative items to restore, just to keep God's command to not have any of those idol items, any of those things that were prohibited by God. That's what he's doing. He's just getting rid of all this stuff. Okay, so verse 5, he deposed. Deposed isn't a word that I know off the top of my head, but when you click on verse 5, you can get 7 translations on the screen at the same time. These are called parallels, and you can scroll. He removed in the New King James Version. But if you look at all of these, he put down, he did away with. So this is another method of connecting words to their meanings. If you don't always want to look it up, oftentimes a parallel will give you the message, and it will help you remember the verse that you read a little bit more because you got stuck on a word. And so just another benefit of reading for yourself, for enlightenment. So verse 6 is another item that was brought out from the temple. Verse 7, I did read the word sodomite in the King James Version. But what this is referring to is cult prostitution. Okay. And cult prostitution was considered sacred in ancient religions. I mean, it just is what it is. It was just considered an act of worship. So it's probably what these other groups of people that were living on this land were doing. But that's all that was. Sodomite is a pejorative term nowadays, but during this time, you have to remember there was no dictionary, there was no, political correctness. So you have to think about that. Also, you have to remember, women are not able to work during this time. They're not the ones with money. And these male cult prostitutes have houses. If you remember, when Solomon was demonstrating his wisdom, with the 2 women, that story was about 2 prostitutes living in one home. Both of them had children, and both of them had, 1 baby each, living in the same house. One of the babies died and took the other woman's baby. Okay, so contrasting those 2 prostitutes and, Rahab. Now, don't know what Rahab's story was. She seemed to have a better life a little bit than the 2 women in Solomon's story. But when we look here at the male cult prostitutes, they have houses. Women not being able to work, who is their clientele? So we just have to remember that also. Men who engage in that, they may feel some kind of way like they're losing masculinity. I don't know. But this is a machismo culture. You have to remember that these are the men writing this. Actually, we don't even know who wrote 2 Kings. So the person who wrote this book might have a vendetta. So, I mean, you don't know. But when we hear certain words, it is easy to get, into our feelings, but you have to consider the source. You have to consider the time period. Okay. These people are not just being mean. This was just, people used to be a little bit more direct, and it just was what it was. Okay. So also just the proximity of males who participate in homosexual behaviors and women, how close they are. Okay, the women making art. In verse 7, just wanting to point out that relationship is even here, where these gay men and these women who create art are in the same part of society a little bit, occupying the same kind of occupation and society around men. Just want to point that out in verse 7, how close homosexuals and women are in verse 7. Just wanted to point that out. All right. So in verse 8, the priest that were making these offerings, participating in beliefs, they're being removed. And so I'm not quite sure what verse 8 and 9 means. I'm thinking the priest, it says that, but the priest ate with them. The priests of the high places. So I guess these are the priests that were participating in those alternative beliefs. They came out of, he removed them from the city of Judah, and then they ate bread with them. Okay, verse 10, he's destroying more of the areas. Verse 11, destroying more of the paraphernalia. Verse 12, the same deal, destroying more things. Okay, 13 and 14, destroying more of those things. Same thing with the verse 15. Verse 16. Okay, then verse 17. King James Version, what title is that I see? And so this is a gravestone of a prophet, of a man, or it doesn't even say a prophet, tombstone of a man who had a prophecy. Okay, so then King Josiah decides, okay, well, since that man had a prophecy, then I'm not going to mess with his grave. And then 19, more destroying of those items that made God angry. And then verse 20, he sacrificed the priest of the high places on the altars. Yeah, I didn't remember reading that. He sacrificed the priest? Dang, he slew all the priests. Oh, okay. He executed them. Okay. Then returned to Jerusalem. After that, after all that killing and destroying, he was hungry. So they kept the Passover feast. All right, so this is, King Josiah is still 18 when he does all this. Also, 24, mediums, necromancers. These are people who are fortune tellers or work with magic or, again, all those alternative belief systems. Josiah removed them. My computer's going slow. Okay, remove the mediums in the New American Standard. So got rid of them, eradicated them. Okay, so the people who are practicing these alternative belief systems, they were removed. Okay, says here, verse 25, there's no king like him, King Josiah. But 26 says, yeah, that was good and all, but yeah, God is still mad. The prophecy is still coming. The wrath is still going to burn Judah. Okay, because of all the provocations with Manasseh, which Manasseh had provoked him. I will remove Judah as I've removed Israel. So again, just want to make it clear. Israel, we have Jacob and Esau. Jacob becomes Israel. He has a name change. He is the father of the descendants that we see here. There's 12 tribes. After they get out of Egypt, they've been in the wilderness 40 years. Okay, we're past that. These 12 tribes are now living in Canaan. Okay, but what's happened after King Solomon disobeys God? We don't even have 12 tribes anymore. It's like 11 tribes. Most of the majority of those 11 tribes, 12 tribes, is the nation of Israel, because what's also happened is they become fractured into two kingdoms, Israel and Judah. 2 Kings 17, the Assyrians defeat Israel, remove them off their territory, and bring more Assyrians to occupy that territory. What this is saying here in verse 27, what just happened in Israel, where those people were moved off their land, this one remaining tribe of Judah, you're going to be removed too. That's what it's saying in verse 27. None of the people that's on this land that are from the descendants of Jacob and Esau, not Jacob and Esau, because Esau, his descendants didn't come into this land. This is only Jacob's descendants. None of them are going to be here anymore. That's what verse 27 is saying. Again, I keep saying, if somebody thinks I'm misconstruing, because some people like to say that if you think I'm misconstruing, come show me. I need help. I know I need help reading. I would like for someone to help me. I think Christians need to get together and start reading instead of spreading what you think something means. I think you need to get up here and read. Tell me where I'm wrong at. Now it's saying the Chronicles of Kings of Judah, that this is one of those, again, the book of the Chronicles of Kings of Judah. This book does not appear in the 66 books of the Bible, because what happened after Solomon disobeyed, there was a fracture with Judah and Israel. They have these books that they're referring to because every time there's a change in leadership, it's documented in the book corresponding with their kingdom. So you have Chronicles of Israel, Chronicles of Judah. It's why the book isn't, I don't know why these books aren't included in the 66 books. Who made that executive decision? But this is referred to the book of the Chronicles of Kings. This is referred to multiple times, and it does not appear in the 66 book of the Bible. Okay? The king of Egypt, in verse 29, went up against Assyria, the same people who just destroyed Israel. And then King Josiah went up there too. He's only 18. King Josiah dies trying to go up against the Assyrians. And the servants brought him dead back to his home. Josiah's son, Jehoahaz, becomes king. The kingdom anoints him king next. Jehoahaz was 23. He was evil, but he only reigns for 2 months. Yeah, only 3 months. He reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. He was evil. And it says it put him in bonds. And bonds meaning, okay, in chains, imprison him. So Josiah's son was in prison. So I did make the comment in one video about King Hezekiah and how him being such a weak-willed man, his son after came and did evil. Well, we see Josiah, but Josiah's 18. Not saying that that's, I'm just pointing out, Josiah is only 18 years old. So he has a son, but he became king when he was only 8 years old. So, Josiah's son, Jehoahaz, was evil, and he is in prison within 3 months of becoming king. And he ends up having to tax the nation of Judah to pay this king. And his name was changed to Jehoiakim. He lived in Egypt. He died in Egypt. Oh, I'm sorry. Eliakim, the son of Josiah. So I guess Eliakim is Jehoahaz's brother. Because Jehoahaz began to reign, he was the one that was in prison. So his brother had a name change to Jehoiakim. Ugh. So Jehoiakim, who is Eliakim, okay, Eliakim is the brother of Jehoahaz, but he becomes king because his brother was taken and imprisoned. Jehoiakim was also evil. So that's where we're at now. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.